27 minutes, here we go. Ken and Scott, Postconsumers. I'm Ken.
And I'm Scott.
And welcome to Postconsumers. Today we're going to talk about the topic of competition. Competition. I'm inspired right now to talk about competition based on the stuff I'm hearing about this Sony movie thing with The Interview was the name of the movie.
The Interview was the name of the movie.
Yes, and we may all never see it. It's the movie basically, I guess, that people plan to assassinate the North Korean dictator.
Kim Jong-un.
I think he's Un.
I heard there was a hit on Sony hackers. I had no idea it was tied in with the North Koreans. Boom, boom, boom.
Right. The little kid on the block with the sharp stick, basically. Yeah.
With the metal tip.
Yeah.
Big barb on it. So
I guess what went down is they North Korea cyber attacked Sony and blew out their hard drives, like utterly.
The whole corporation.
That's what NPR was saying today. So it's
way.
And Obama's calling it cyber vandalism. Other people are calling it terrorism. But my whole feeling about it is that it just stems from this whole notion of competition. It's us against them. It's a winner take all. It's just big states acting like playground bullies, poking sticks at each other and tit for tat instead of sitting down and talking and figuring out solutions. It's just a world full of people that are still in high school, running the planet.
So what was the movie about?
Basically, just a plot to kill the president. And North Korea got wind of it, and they're like, "You release this movie, we will destroy you." And they have threatened violence at any theater that shows it. Sony, the lawyers for Sony were told, I guess, if you do this, you will be liable if anybody gets killed. I don't know how that's even remotely their fault. I mean, and that's the thing too. It's like, freedom and freedom of the press and First Amendment rights. It's like these things have a cost. They just do. And at some point, the cost is somebody gets a bloody nose. If you're gonna spout off about anything, I mean, including this show, who knows? We could be pissing somebody off pretty good doing this show. Hopefully we do. Quite honestly, and I'm prepared to get that bloody nose. if it means that, that would just mean that I'm getting through.
There's an old saying: if you aren't making enemies along the way occasionally, and your endeavors in life or whatever, you're probably not.
The status quo is not working, and there needs to be these kind of voices. But I think it all stems. The root of all of this is competition. To me. Yeah.
Because so you got thinking about this on the North Korea thing because you look at it in terms of nation states are competing with each other for resources.
Absolutely, it's always for resources.
Power.
Well, power
resources.
We want power, so we want power, so we can control and have the lion's share of resources. That's pretty much the function of states at all anymore. It's always been. I mean, that's any war that's ever been fought has been a war for resources. I don't care what anybody else says. Oh, conquest for religion, blah 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 blah. It's like, no, fundamentally, they had something we wanted, and we just wrapped it around some other label.
How dare they try to stake the claim of our oil underneath their desert
our oil,
sands.
Our gold, our spices, our whatever. I mean, pick a era, and you'll find a resource that everybody's fighting about, and wrapping it up in religion or king and country or whatever.
And it goes back to consumption then too.
Absolutely.
Because, we do require a certain amount of upkeep. To live.
And it's this way of life.
We want to improve our standard of living.
Or at least maintain it.
And so if the tribe next door has a better standard of living due to the stuff that they have, then
somebody's going to get
instead
jealous.
Of sharing,
somebody's going to want it. Yeah.
We'll just go in there and take it from them.
Yeah, or cyber attack them.
Cyber attack them.
Or whatever. I mean,
in the modern age.
Exactly. So what do we do? What do we do to thwart competition? How do we get our nation states to start listening to the people? And what do we do when these rogue nations pop up, like North Korea, where it's been several generations of people over there now have been like isolated.
Oh yeah,
they know they know more is going on in the world, but
they may not. I don't know.
The government won't let them know more.
Some degree of competition is good.
Yeah.
I think that to the extent that resources allow and permit competition, I think competition can be a good thing.
Well, I mean, it's hard to get away from. I admit. I mean, it's the nature of life. I mean, survival of the fittest.
On the other hand, there is another evolutionary pathway that relies more on cooperation than on competition.
Right.
Symbiosis. Most of the cells in your body are actually not your cells. Your gastrointestinal tract is largely other organisms.
Right. Oh, of course.
Bacteria, different.
And that's why antibiotics are a nightmare.
Yeah.
I mean, and I avoid them at all costs.
And without them, we couldn't live.
Yeah.
And they couldn't live without us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you take antibiotics, it ruins your system until you get all that flora back in there again.
And that role of symbiosis has just as much, if not more, of an evolutionary role in the history of life than has been appreciated for generations.
Yeah.
And it's only just in the last 10 or 20 years that scientists have really started to look at symbiotic cooperative relationships in nature. And it's a sort of a whole huge unexplored territory.
It seems to me that ultimately cooperation wins the day. I mean, if you don't have cooperation, if you don't have symbiosis, then basically we should be looking at ourselves as an invader of this planet. I mean, competition goes to the point of man against nature. I mean, everything is always we try to beat up on nature and mold it and form it into the way we want. It's like we're in competition with nature. I mean, it's not how it works. It's not how it should work, because nature always wins. That's the thing.
That's last.
Yeah, that's the thing we have yet to realize. The end of this game, this competition. It's like she's gonna win. She's gonna win one way or the other.
Yeah, we like to think that we have these enormous powers and we master nature and sort of in our American mindset. And then when a natural catastrophe happens and we see the force of nature, we are put in our place.
Absolutely.
And we're just a temporary transient passenger along on this ride, and we're not driving the bus.
Not at all. Not at all. So competition is not the natural way of things, really. I mean, living in harmony and symbiosis, like you say. Why don't you talk more about symbiosis?
Well, they're sure. Most people think of it in terms of like you see that fish swimming amongst the coral, and it poops on the coral, and the coral eats it, and it hides from predators in the coral, and it's immune to the stinging.
Oh, the
clownfish.
Clownfish.
Yeah, and there's a movie.
Nemo.
Nemo. Yeah.
Nemo. Yeah. Yep.
And that's usually what people think of as a symbiotic relationship. But actually, there's a number of different categories of symbiosis That's just one, called mutualism.
Mutualism, okay. And how is that defined?
When two organisms depend on each other to survive.
Okay.
And that's all around us.
What's another example?
Bees and flowers.
Bees and flowers, okay.
I mean, no one thinks of that as like a competitive relationship.
Yeah,
it's very much
and if that relationship was somehow competitive, we wouldn't have flowers. We wouldn't have food.
We wouldn't be here, probably.
Yeah, we wouldn't be here. Without the bees, we won't be here. Yeah. So okay, that's
that's the one that everybody thinks
mutualism.
Of. Mutualism. But there's actually a number of different ones.
Okay.
You can have amensalism.
What's that?
Commensalism.
Let's talk
parasitism.
About them all. Let's talk about them all.
Okay. Amensalism is
different ways to not be competitive.
Different ways to not be competitive.
And how can we translate these into statehood politics?
Oh, that's a big question.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'd have to.
Well, let's go through them all. Let's go through them all quick. See if we can figure it out in the next 20 minutes.
Well, no. Let's just take one.
Okay.
Parasitism.
Okay.
Is a form of a symbiotic relationship.
Mm-hmm. I would say that's America right now.
Certain aspects.
As far as the amount of the gobbling up of resources we do for what we give back, I mean, how could you not call us a parasite?
Yeah, we benefit at the expense of future generations.
Absolutely. And the rest of the world currently, not even future generations. I mean, there's people jumping out of buildings at the factories they work at in China because they're overworked and underpaid and basically slaves to our consumerism, our parasitism. Parasiticalism? Parasitism? We'll look that one up.
So that's another example of a symbiotic type of relationship. Then you can also have commensalism. Commensalism, where one organism... Mensal. Okay. Commensal. Where one organism benefits and it's of no detriment to the other organism.
Okay.
And amensalism is where...
what's an example of What's an example of commensalism?
Let me see.
Something just hanging
I don't know.
on.
I'm not a biologist. I just sort of am familiar with the categories.
Aren't there fish that kind of hang on to sharks and whales? They don't suck off of them, but they just kind of hang out.
Okay, that would be a good example. Yeah, it doesn't
hurt them.
Doesn't hurt the other organism.
It's good for the hanger on.
It's good for the hanger on.
Okay, yeah. They're not like lampreys where they get nutrients from the fish. They're just along for the ride, picking up scraps of whatever the big fish doesn't get. I think something like that.
Okay. So that's
one.
That's another category.
Right.
And then another category, amensalism, is where one organism doesn't benefit or gain from the relationship, but the other one suffers.
So nobody's winning.
Right.
Nobody's winning. One isn't losing, but one's losing.
Yes.
What's an example of that?
I can't think of one off the top of my head. I just know the categories, and I can apply them to human relationships, institutions, things like that.
Well, that's more important to the discussion today. So how would you?
Yeah, and biology is just like magic to me. Give me equations, chemistry, physics, please. I like to have it all spelled out. Biology is like it's too fuzzy. It's magic. Yeah. It's magic.
It's true. I mean, the more I'm delving into this farming stuff and walking away from technology, it's like, things move a lot slower. I mean, when I started the Rooster Square, this food forest community garden that I'm working on, I expected so much so quick, because it's like I come from a TV film route, it's like 3 weeks we'll have a movie done. It might not be the best, but we will crank something out and then we will show it to people. But it's like 3 weeks is nothing. I mean, you might get a half inch out of a gourd, in 3 weeks or something. You get nothing. It's these slow paces and now we're growing trees out there. So now I'm talking years to wait to see if what I'm doing now is going to be effective at all.
Excuse me.
So I definitely see your point. Biology is a much slower time scale than you get with, I would say, any other science, except maybe astronomy.
Yeah, astronomy is in the category of it takes a long time.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that
light travels fast, but the universe is
right.
place.
Yeah, I mean, to track something, it can take an entire lifetime, sometimes more than one lifetime, to really get the details of whatever you're observing up and away out there.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
and we're just such a small slice of time.
Mm-hmm.
From cosmic scales.
Yeah, right.
But on the other hand, we're like gigantic if you just look at atomic scales.
Yeah.
So
We're somewhere
kind of right in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle. If you can gauge a middle, even I mean, the more you go either direction, you just find bigness that you never comprehended and smallness that you never comprehended.
Yes, it just goes infinitely both ways.
Okay, so what do we got left? Symbiosis. What else?
I was going to try to come up with a human relationship or example of commensalism or amensalism.
Where one loses, one doesn't get anything.
Yeah, or one gains and the other person doesn't get anything. It's like, skin off my nose. It doesn't cost me anything, but you benefit from it. I can't think of any example right off the top of my head, but there are tons.
We'll come back to it. We got 12 minutes. Maybe we'll come up with one. Okay, so what's and then there's one more?
Cynicism.
Cynicism?
Cynicism.
What is cynicism?
Which is not generally found in nature.
Okay.
But unfortunately, in human society, it's found a fair amount. It's where both organisms suffer from the relationship. And that does not occur very much in nature because evolution kind of selects for species.
Yeah. Oh, that's not working out. We'll kill that off. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the whole point. Maybe like we just stated, biology is a slow process. We're in a state of cynicism with this planet right now, and the planet's going to get rid of us. It's just the planet. If we don't change our tune and start eliminating competition where it has no point, no good place to be, or worse, cynicism, where it just means the end.
Yeah.
Because if it's not working out, then both parties are going to say, all right, see you later. Although cynicism could also lead to some of the things you discuss as far as us literally leaving the planet and spreading off into the, getting materials from the asteroids and flying off into parts unknown.
That'll be a conversation for a separate
podcast. We can open it up. We can open it up here. I mean, in effect, aren't you? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Go right ahead.
Well, that's another reason why we do this show that nobody listens to. we can expound on some points and
sure.
test our own waters.
Sure.
So yeah, in a way, planning to leave this world. In that fashion,
leave this world.
Well, if
more than that, oh God, Ken.
Well, go.
That's like the same thing as like we're killing the planet.
Right.
That's the same kind of polemic.
Right.
If I may use that word, don't take it personal. We all use it. I get polemical at times. It's an effective way to express.
What do you mean by polemic?
Well,
that's not a word I use a lot.
It's
my vocabulary is not the best, as you'll all find out.
I don't want to. Well, making a grandiose statement.
Polarizing. Is that what you mean?
No.
Okay.
No. It's to say something to sort of make a point. I'm not sure that I'm even using the word right. Actually, maybe that's
Is hyperbole?
Yes.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, we're killing the planet.
We are killing everything.
And the planet will do just fine.
Oh, the planet will be here. Geologically, and the rock of it will still be here.
Yeah, and there will be a biosphere for many millions of years.
Just to some degree, yeah. It's depending.
It'll change. Yeah. To something else, but
whether
it always does.
Whether it's a biosphere that supports only microbial life or higher forms of life like ourselves.
We don't know.
That's the difference.
We can't see that far. That's hundreds of millions of years. I mean,
or 100 at the rate we're going.
Nature doesn't. Well, it goes through occasional non-linearities in the ecosystem. There's evidence for massive shifts and massive in short time frames.
Well, we're in the middle of a huge extinction.
Yeah, the Anthropocene. What is it?
I don't know.
Yes, they're calling this the Anthropocene era now.
Yeah. And that means?
That means that
the era of extinction.
The era of extinction is brought about as a result of humanity, and
right.
And we are extinguishing a lot of life forms on this planet. Most of them not intentionally, I think.
I would say most of them unintentionally.
We don't actively go out and try to extinguish other species so much anymore.
No.
Compared to,
we try. I mean, wolves, everybody, depending on your point of view, there's lots of people that would love to see every last wolf dead. There's people that would love to see every last elephant dead, all the, people that are
psychopaths. Though.
No, they're just people looking for money. They're just ranchers and farmers and people in all parts of the world.
Okay. When those other species are competing.
There you go. And once again, we come back to the competition thing. I mean, everything we're doing right now to this planet stems from some sort of, entrenched belief that competition is the way to win. And it's not always about winning. It depends how you want to define winning. I mean, what's our end game with this game? If we're calling it a game, I mean that's usually when you say competition, you assume it's a game, I guess, and it's not a game.
Yeah, I've read some game theory in the past, and this is something I don't get about it. It's just such a narrow way of conceptualizing the way the human mind can work.
It is.
Like the prisoner's dilemma.
What's that?
It's sort of a classical game theory about. I won't go into describing it in detail right now, but it gets to kind of like one of the root things that you're addressing here with how we interact with each other and for what reasons. There's been a lot of recent research. I'm repeating myself this morning. I'm used to doing this in the afternoon.
It's cool.
In the evening rather than in the morning. Altruism. There's been a lot of studies recently on
I don't know that it really exists.
The root cause of altruism.
I don't know that altruism even really exists. I mean, somebody's always doing something for some goal,
See, I find the whole concept of altruism really limiting because it focuses again on the individual and not in the relationship between two people.
How do you mean?
Well, if we think of ourselves as individual people making rational decisions.
Sure, I'll go with you there for a while.
And that's sort of that's the fundamental assumption
right.
of a lot of social, behavioral, and economic
that we're rational
studies
beings.
Is that we are rational beings.
Yeah.
And that given all the facts in hand,
I think it's best to start
information that people will make the rational choice
right.
in their best interest.
An individual might.
An individual.
But a group, I don't think so. I mean, that's why we have states and countries and Sony and North Korea now.
Well, the thing they're finding it, though, is that rational choice theory is bogus. It's just completely bogus.
It doesn't seem to have a lot of evidence. I don't think.
It's an ideal.
It's an ideal.
It was something that was postulated in the era of excess resources, surplus energy.
Yeah.
When we had the resources, where competition
people could afford to be altruistic.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not have to look at the fundamental relationship of, or your fundamental person as being unconnected with other people. I mean, it really does. You do not exist outside of your connection with other organisms. I mean, we like to think of ourselves as, these bags of skin containing this ego that is all isolated and everything out there beyond is not me.
Connected.
I'm just me. But,
and
that's what's led to our situation.
The westernized view of the world, of little old us against the world. And that's, I don't think, I don't know, as I pursue my Buddhism more and Alan Watts and all that stuff, it's like, yeah, the connectedness is to everything. It's just impossible to just brush aside. You just can't do it. Because everything I do now, I find connections and synchronicities, and it's just, you can't just blow it off.
No.
And to do so is just ignorant and not opening yourself up to literally the universe showing you the way. if you can open yourself up to it. That's just my little spiritual
There's
caveat.
roots for it in quantum physics.
Yeah.
Action at a distance.
Oh, absolutely.
When two particles are entangled.
Oh yeah, entanglement, the spins of it. Yeah, the spins of atoms. Yeah.
Quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
And then they can be separated by light years.
The entire distance of the universe. Yeah.
And then the one
they just know.
And they just know.
They just know.
And they just are in the same state.
Mm-hmm. Faster than the speed of light, instantaneously.
It's still hard
nobody's
to wrap my
nobody's
mind
figuring
around
this
that
out
one.
yet. Nobody has really figured this out yet.
I forget which quantum physicist said anybody that truly that claims to understand quantum theory doesn't.
Right. And that's the interesting thing too. It's I just watched a very interesting show about atheists, and these two scientist guys are basically going around the world and pontificating
about this one.
The unbelievers.
Yeah, Dawkins and Sam Harris. Yeah.
It wasn't Sam Harris wasn't.
No.
I mean, he was involved, but it was two guys older than them. I can't remember their names. But yeah, they're basically, spreading the faith of no faith, and it is. They argue it isn't, but I don't know. It's still a faith. It's still having faith that our five senses are the only thing. Fundamentally, that's how I see it.
Really?
Yeah, I really do. And I find it hard to argue past that.
So you're a hard materialist then.
What do you mean?
That you believe that all there is just what we can sense.
No. The opposite. I'm saying these guys have that is their faith. That their non-belief in anything spiritual, metaphysical, whatever, is based on the fact that they don't believe in any way that there is more.
And you think there is?
I think there's got to be. I think we find some evidence of it all the time. I mean, there's creatures that see ultraviolet. I mean, who knows what world we might live in, what attitudes we might have if we could see ultraviolet or infrared, or have a sense of smell like a dog. I mean,
we would look at the world.
We would look at the world a whole lot different, and surely it would affect our philosophy and outlook.
Maybe it's time we started modifying our genetic structure.
Yeah, there you go. Because GMOs are great.
Well,
GMO with no nose?
I want to be able to see ultraviolet. Infrared, man.
Well, I mean, we have the technology to make that happen, but as far as I know, there's nobody that's walked around with, IR goggles for a year just to see if it affects their outlook on life.
I know what I'm going to build in the lab next time.
Right. Well, there we are. It's been 28 minutes or so. You've been listening to Ken and Scott. Almost said Scott and Ken. Oh my God.
Oh, don't you dare.
You talk more than me a lot of times. You're the smart one on the show. Anyways, Ken and Scott.
Bye.
Postconsumers. See you later.
Next time.
Bye-bye.
See ya.